everything's fine on 93.9 Dublin South FM.
The 2026 West Bengal election is not just about power. It is about whether India's electoral system still commands trust or has it begun to fracture from within. As West Bengal moves towards voting on the April 23rd and 29th of April this year, what we are witnessing is not routine democracy. It is institutional stress, visible, audible and undeniable. So Bengal has always been politically volatile. Most ideological battles to street level mobilization, it has often set the tone for national politics. But this time it's different. This is not just a contest between the incumbent All India Trinamool Congress and the challenger Bharatiya Janata Party. This is a multi-layered confrontation and that is evolving. Like the Election Commission of India, the Supreme Court of India, the state administration and the new digital ecosystem that is being glorified in this process. So let's begin with the hard numbers because numbers don't shout, they quietly, silently reveal. In 2021, the ruling party secured 215 out of 294 seats in the assembly, with just over 48% of the vote share. Then, the BJP, the national ruling party, rose dramatically from 3 seats in 2016 to 77 seats, capturing nearly 38% vote share. And that election delivered a decisive mandate. But here is the shift. 2026 is not being driven by governance promises. It is being driven by 3 other forces: the mandate, the misinformation, and machinery. And it may not be wrong that these 3 factors, the 3 M's, is also driving the national elections. So it is less of a governance now in this democracy. So starting with the first fault line, it's the voter list. For the first time in state's electoral history, the electorate has contracted. The size has shrunk from approximately 7.66 crore voters, that is 76 million voters, to down 7.04 crore voters, so that is about 70.4 million voters. Over 6.2 million, 62 lakh names have been removed. Another 60 lakh, 6 million voters are still under adjudication. This is not a marginal correction if you see by statistics, by numbers, by any volumes. This is a structural shock. The Election Commission argues this is a necessary cleanup. It is removal of duplicates, deletion of deceased voters, and digitization through AI systems. So all this looks very neat and clean intentions. Of course, there will be deletion of deceased voters, but then the new will be added too. So technically, all this is what it sounds, but democracy is not technical, it is psychological. Because when such a massive number of voters disappear from the rolls, from the voters list, the first reaction is suspicion, particularly when the scrutiny is uneven. Now look at this example in the district like Malda, where the Muslim population is over 50%, and North 24 Parganas, where it is over 25%. The number of voters flagged is disproportionately high. This is not just data imbalance, this is political volatility waiting to ignite. Now here is the context. When the Home Minister in the Parliament, Mr. Amit Shah, spoke about detect, delete, deport, it may be aimed at illegal immigration policy. But in Bengal, in the middle of voter list revision, these words land differently. They fuse with administrative action, and suddenly a technical process begins to look ideological on the party lines. And this is where the deeper philosophical idea comes in. A democracy survives not just on outcomes, but on what political theorists call procedural legitimacy. Now what it means is people accept defeat only when they trust the process and the process that actually produced it. And if you break that trust, then even a fair result will be rejected. And that is what is currently happening with the Indian democracy. Now move on to the second fault line, administration. In mid-March, the Election Commission, the National Election Commission, they order the removal of West Bengal's Chief Secretary and Home Secretary. This is not unprecedented, but timing changes the meaning of this move. Weeks before polls, next month, April, such a move is not seen as a neutral housekeeping. It is seen as an intervention from the center. And that has raised alarm with the Chief Minister, Ms. Mamata Banerjee. And she actually reacted strongly, calling it as an assault on federalism, even approaching the courts. And the commission and the election commission actually gave the reasoning of the violence that took place in 2021 and therefore said that it requires neutrality. The election commission also cited that nearly 2,500 companies of central security forces have been deployed. So if you see, both sides have arguments and both sides are claiming legitimacy. And that is precisely the problem with this shape of democracy. Because when two authorities claim legitimacy and neither trusts the other, the system begins to crack. And that is where the ordinary voters gets caught between the institution. तो जब दो हाथी लड़ते हैं तो घास ही पिसती है बीच में. That means when two giants fight, it is the grass under the feet that gets crumbled. I would say that is the rough translation of the idiom in Hindi. So now comes the third and the most serious escalation. The judiciary steps in. Now the West Bengal government approaches the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court of India does something unusual. It does not interpret the law. It begins to supervise the process. So it appoints judicial officers to oversee the voter list revision. Remember, about 6 million voters are under adjudication. Appellate tribunals are established to hear cases of the voters who are contesting their deletion. So this is not a routine oversight. This is an institutional Supreme Court's intervention. Therefore, if you look at it, it signals one thing very clearly, that internal trust within the system has weakened. When the referee needs supervision, the match itself is under question. The third empire itself is under question. And that is where all the politics of West Bengal is fighting an existential crisis. Now there is another layer, that is the digital dimension. So Digital India, and for first time, in order to clean up the electoral rolls, India has used AI-influenced electoral list verification. Deep fakes, algorithmic targeting, automated verification system. So on paper, this is a fantastic progress. It looks a brilliant resume for Election Commission of India. But on grounds, with the psychology of the voters, it has created a serious chaos. Minor spelling differences by an alphabet, slight variation in records, even handwriting inconsistencies are enough to flag voters. So AI is really not helping here much. And the technology should have been tested somewhere, because technology implementation in such kind of a process requires an extreme sense of precision, missile rocket technology precision. But society, and especially the illiterate society of India, it operates on approximation. And that gap is now producing 6 million voter list exclusions. And into that gap, of course, will flow misinformation. Rumors about mass deletion, targeted exclusions like we spoke about Malda, manipulated voter list, and these kind of information, they are spreading like wildfire much faster, much rapidly than the official clarification. And if you look at the rural Bengal, if you talk to people out there, it has really created panic. So people are now going back to the block level officers, the people who are managing the electoral list, and they are double checking everything and they are trusting nothing. That is where the problem is. And then comes the episode that crystallizes this crisis. This is just very, very recent. I think it's day before or just during the weekend last. An official document linked to Election Commission of India that surfaces in Kerala. So ideally, it should have a seal of Election Commission. But surprise, surprise, it carries the stamp of Bharatiya Janata Party, BJP, the ruling party at the center. And although the Election Commission's explanation is immediate, that it's a clerical error, that the ruling party had submitted a stamped photocopy and official mistakenly has reused it, and the action is taken against the officer, but the system has exploded on trust. It is dropped the credibility of the election commission by 100 points, because institutions are not judged only by what they do, they are judged by how they appear. So this single visual by a constitutional body's document carrying a ruling party's seal has created a powerful narrative that the referee is not neutral, that the third umpire is wearing the opponent's jersey. And of course, taking this opportunity, the chief minister is calling it as conspiracy, not a mistake. And when the climate of distrust is already prevailing, whether it was Bihar and now in Kerala and West Bengal, even genuine errors, clerical mistakes like this look deliberate design. So now if you look back and see the full picture, the big picture, three forces are colliding. The mandate, which should be decisive, machinery, which should be neutral, and misinformation should be zero. It should be factual. But today what we are seeing is that the mandate is uncertain, machinery is contested, and the misinformation is so dominant. We do not know whom to believe and what to believe. And this is where the Indian democracy is treading into the dangerous territory. Because when the mandate loses trust, it becomes hollow. Nobody is going to believe which government is going to come. When the machinery which is going to run the election, that loses credibility, then it becomes cohesive. People are getting herded into a particular behavior in the politics of India. That is how it has to be seen. And when misinformation fills the space, it becomes reality. So this is not just another election cycle that we used to have. This is a structural shift in how democracy is being experienced in India. And this battle has not been a battle for votes, for governance, for good governance. It is now a control over the systems that will validate these votes. And once again, that battle begins. It rarely ends quickly. And if the voter rolls or questions, turnout itself loses the legitimacy. People will not turn up for the elections. If administrative decisions are seen as partisan, then the governance of the election, the administration of the elections, it slows down. And if the election commission's neutrality is doubted, every result will carry an asterisk, will carry a sense of doubt. And when every result is questioned, the democracy, the Indian democracy, the foundation is bound to collapse. It's like a slow poison. With those concerns, with those thoughts about the West Bengal elections and the ongoing electoral politics that is being fought before the actual elections have taken place, I leave you until next week. Stay safe, stay informed, dutifully ask questions. At the end of the day, somebody has to stand up. Bye for now.
You are listening to 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Broadcasting from the Dundrum Town Centre, this is Dublin South FM.